best coaches in the game. We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmet's casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick your tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Thursday night edition of the NHL FanDuel and DraftKings breakdown. Unfortunately, it's just me tonight. Cam had some emergency business he had to get to. There's 10 games, so I really kind of just want to get into as much as I can. Being by myself, it's a little tougher. There's obviously no one else to talk to, so throw a bunch of questions in the comments so I can get interacting with you guys and be able to ask or answer some of the questions you have, especially with this nice 10-game slate that we have on tonight. As always, if you are not a DFS Army VIP member, use that code right on the bottom, right there, Mdell. Save yourself 10% on your membership, and that 10%, whatever price it is, you get that until you cancel your membership. So you always have that no matter what. As long as it's active, if our prices go up, your price stays the same. So then you never have to worry about any price increases as long as you stay a member. I know we had a few big winners last night, and I just want to do a quick little shout out to these guys. I'm going to look in our Slack chat. We have a great channel in Slack called Winning Lineups, and it's just where our members post their wins from the previous night. And I mean, last night we definitely nailed the blow-up game of Edmonton. They finally kind of popped off, and that was great to see. I'm just trying to see here if there was some big winners yesterday. I know the other day we had Beavis 30. He took fourth in the NHL 150,000 Hockey Week puck drop final. Took home a nice $3,000. So congratulations to you. It wasn't last night, but that was a couple nights ago. And I know last night we had a bunch of guys who did well, stacking up Edmonton, finding the right pieces. And I mean, Leon Draisaitl went absolutely bonkers. If you didn't have him, you probably didn't cash. But we will get right into it tonight with this nice 10-game slate. There are a couple of games where I'm going to kind of just write off people I'm not really a big fan of. And there are a couple of smash spots. We see a lot of high totals, a couple over 3.5, so we're definitely going to want to target those. If you are a DFS Army member already, head over to the website and check out mine and Flynn's cheat sheets for both the sites tonight. You'll kind of see our cores, our core GPP lines, other GPP lines, and I know that my write-ups are a little bit lengthy, but it's very important that you read them all because you might miss something that is in there. Just read them, check the player ranks, and you'll kind of be able to build a nice lineup with that. Like I said, keep questions in the comments so I can answer them throughout this podcast. If not, I'm going to go ahead and get right started. The first game we have on the slate, New York Rangers at the Boston Bruins. Rangers are implied 2.4. Boston is implied 3.2. We got some news earlier today that Tuukka Rask is going to miss this game. So we're going to see Yaroslav Halak start for Boston. And we have Alexander Georgiev starting for the Rangers. I mean, this game's tough. Both offenses, I mean, the Rangers have been scoring lately, but I don't buy into it. Boston's not scoring that much, but they have a great offense. So I'm not really interested in either one of the goalies here. The thing about tonight's slate is all the games start at 7. I think there's one at 7:30, one at 8 or 8:30, and then there's the last game at 9. But the majority of the games start at 7. Don't worry about the time slot when you're trying to build your cash. Don't be like, oh, I need to have a guy in the last game, because you don't, especially if the other games just absolutely go off. So you'll want to definitely just pick the best plays. It doesn't really matter what time you're playing. But a little bit into this game here, I'll look at the Rangers side first. I don't mind stacking the Rangers second line in GPPs. Two of them play on the first power play, which definitely helps out. Chris Kreider has been absurd in the last 5 games. He got 4 goals, 2 assists. Ryan Strome's been doing well too. Just hard to kind of pinpoint against Boston, just because they do play really good defense, even though Halak is starting and he can be a little bit leaky. Not really looking at anyone here for cash games. Luckily, we have one sort of injury news. Artemi Panarin, he did practice, but it's going to take him a few days of practice before he can get back into game shape. But it's good to see him back with the team and back being able to play some hockey. And I think he might be able to return Saturday, so that'll be good for him to get back on the ice. That'll shake up probably their second line a little bit. On the Boston side, they're kind of struggling lately. Only 2.6 goals in the last 10 games. But that top line, Marchand, Bergeron, and Pastrnak, you can pair them up with McAvoy, and they're gonna blow up. And they are facing a defense that's not that great. They're still allowing about 3 goals a game in their last 10. And this I think on the slate tonight, they're going to be a lot lower owned than normal, especially being a bigger slate. So we can definitely take advantage of a low owned Boston 1 stack. Thing is, you're going to have to find that good value stack with them because they're all very expensive. And I mean, Pasta, he's priced up, but man, he's got 22 shots over the last 5 games, 5 points, and he's going to play as many minutes as he can handle. Other than that, in this game, you can take a chance on Vaikanen. Probably butchered that name, but he plays on the D3 pairing, but he's got 20 shots and blocks over his last 5 games, and he's very cheap on both sites tonight. So I really don't mind that. I know our research station is a great tool. It's what I'm looking at. It's what I look at all the time. And our domination station is probably going to push Mika Zibanejad a ton, but I'm just not touching him. It's not a good matchup. You don't need to go there, especially in cash with some of the other plays that we have. So he's kind of a stay away from me. Other than that, though, I'm not too interested in that game. But the next one is a whole different story. I'm very interested in the next game. And I will check it out. Here is the Pittsburgh Penguins at the Buffalo Sabres. Pittsburgh is implied 3.6, while Buffalo just 2.5. I'll start with the goalies here, and it is Tristan Jarry for the Penguins, and we get Johansson for the Sabres. It's a great spot to go all over the Pittsburgh Penguins. If you saw my cheat sheet, you'll see that Crosby is one of my core plays. Brian Rust is one of my core plays. They're both just in fantastic spots against Buffalo, who just can't stop the puck. They're allowing 3.6 goals against. And I got a rookie goalie in there who he's not doing that much better than Carter Hutton. So either way you run it, Pittsburgh should be high owned tonight on the slate. I love Sidney Crosby. I love Brian Rust. Jake Gensel, great stack there. Chris Letang you can add into. We see that Jared McCann is out for this game, so it looks like Evan Rodriguez might be moved up to the second line with Malkin and Kapanen. I'm not really interested in their second line all that much. Kapanen has been pretty hot lately with 7 points over the last 5 games, so they'll definitely be a lot lower owned. And then if you play Malkin, you'll get that power play 1 exposure and that correlation with Crosby, Rust, Gensel, and Letang. So I don't mind that at all. Other than that, it's basically their top 6. If you want to go for Brandon Tanev, he's got 4 assists. He's cheap. Plays on the third line, which isn't great, but you can chance it for a cheap value play. On this Buffalo side, they're not scoring. They're not stopping the puck. They're not winning games. Both their goalies have been struggling. Taylor Hall finally came out last game, had a couple assists. So if you want to take a shot at him, he's pretty cheap on both sites. Sam Reinhart's been really hot, 4 goals in his last 5 games, but he's not really taking the shots that I'm looking for. I wouldn't play any Buffalo in cash. Pittsburgh, I really like. And actually, like Tristan Jarry, people aren't going to play him. But with his price, like I love him in cash tonight against Buffalo, who probably won't really score that much. The downside is they're not taking a ton of shots either. But last 10 games, the Penguins have allowed 31 shots on goal against, so he could have some opportunities here. He was really good against the Rangers last game, just allowing 2 goals and 33 saves. Kind of struggled 2 before that, both against the Flyers. But he's been really good lately, like after his struggles earlier this season. And he hasn't played Buffalo yet this year, but he's played some really good offenses of late. And facing off against Buffalo, we always like to throw the goalie against them. And yeah, I mean Pittsburgh 1, Pittsburgh 2, and Jarry. I really like Jarry for cash, which is kind of crazy because I hated him all year, but he's in a good spot. I mean, it's good to target Buffalo for sure. That's about it for that game. I'm trying to get through this a little quick just because I am by myself, and there's 10 games. I don't want to be on here forever, and I want you guys to be able to build your lineups and just keep those questions coming. And we'll move on to the next game, which is the New Jersey Devils at the New York Islanders. The Devils are implied just 2.3. The Islanders are 3.3. I really love the Islanders side of this game. Semyon Varlamov has been outstanding this year. He is pretty expensive, but you can't ignore like his stats lately. He should easily get the win. The Devils aren't playing good defense. I don't think we know who exactly the starters yet for them, but I'll take a look here. Blackwood is still projected, so I'm not really sure if it is Blackwood. Kind of a little downgrade to the Islanders, but he's really struggled of late too. And the Islanders play some great defense. So Varlamov, if you can afford him, play him in cash. Like he's one of the safest options on the slate tonight. The Devils are still shooting 30 shots a game in their last 10. They're just not scoring. So not high danger shots, not high danger chances. So Varlamov could very well give up 1. I think he'll see enough saves to score really well, even for his elevated price tag. I mean, he's priced where he should be. He's 12, 4, and 3 on the season with 2.05 goals against average, which is just insane. We're expecting him to see about 30 shots on goal tonight, which is pretty average. So I absolutely love him. I'm not playing anybody on the Devils side. I just don't think we need to on this slate. There's really no point. But the Islanders side, I do really like their top line of Lee, Barzell, and Eberle. You'll see if you looked at my cheat sheet where I kind of rank them. Ryan Pulock, he's got 16 shots and blocks over his last 5 with a couple assists. He's still pretty cheap. First D pairing, first power play. I really like their second line here of Bolivier, Nelson, and Josh Bailey. Nelson's been a force of late, 4 goals over his last 5 with 13 shots. Bolivier has 14 shots. He's starting to kind of get it together. I really like him too, especially on FanDuel. He's 4.2 on FanDuel, 3.9 on DraftKings. Plays on that second line, but he also gets top power play minutes. And the Devils are taking about 3 penalties a game this year, so the Islanders should be able to get on the power play a few times, and their power play has just been really good, 23.5% this year and up to 26% in their last 10. Definitely love the Islanders. Blackwood's just really been struggling. I like Blackwood, but he's just really been struggling lately, so I'm not trying to force that there. Over the last 2 years, the Rangers have scored, or the Islanders, have scored 3 goals against the Devils in those 4 games per average per game, and allowed just 1 goal a game for average, which is great for Varlamov and their defense. You just gotta, if you can pay for him, just play him. There's no reason not to. You got Cam texting me right now, gave me some of his DK plays for today, so I can mention. I'm playing a little bit of DraftKings tonight, so it'll be good. He gave me some value pointers. some people who he's kind of looking at for value. And you know how when he's making his DraftKings lineup, he really finds the value. The guys playing a ton of minutes, the guys who are shooting, playing a lot of minutes, playing on the power play. So it's great. Let me just look at one play that kind of didn't really catch my eye, but we'll see. We'll see. Let me look. Okay. It's a guy in Nashville, so we'll get to it later. Definitely an option. All right. But if we have, see, you got a couple questions. Tattooed Freak. I only went over a couple games, so you haven't missed too much yet. I went over the Bruins Rangers game and Penguins Sabres game. William, missed the pit overview. You okay with Crosby and Rust on FanDuel Cash? Yeah, I love them. I love Crosby tonight. Rust is going to shoot a ton, especially against Buffalo. So I'm definitely fine with Crosby and Rust and Cash, and they're not like all that expensive either. But we will get on to the next game here, which is going to be pretty interesting. And I'm probably not on the same side as most people, but I will talk about that. And that is the Washington Capitals against Philadelphia Flyers. Washington is implied 3.1. Flyers are implied 3.5. So Vegas is thinking this is going to be a high-scoring game. The line didn't change too much from the open, but the Flyers have Brian Elliott starting for them tonight instead of Carter Hart. And Elliott's been a lot better than Carter Hart this year. It's still hard to go against the Capitals. I don't mind Elliott in GPPs. He's been really good. And I'm not really interested in Samsonov, especially just because the Flyers have so much firepower. I mean, their top line of JVR, Couturier, and Farabi have just been crazy. 40 shots their last 5 games with 14 points. So I really like Philly 1 here. Just a note that Washington is going to be without Tom Wilson for a while. He got suspended for 7 games on one of the hits he gave last week, which he probably should have got more. But yeah, I mean, he's going to bring down their physical presence. Michael Raffles out for Philly. Not really a big loss. He's one of the bottom 6 guys who sometimes does stuff, sometimes doesn't. But like I said, Philly 1. You compare them with Gostisbehere, who's been shooting the puck a ton lately. He kind of goes back and forth. Him and Provorov, I never get them right. I would split them up. Gostisbehere does play on that power play 1, so I really like him there. You want to go to Scott Lawton on the wing. He doesn't play any power play time, but he's playing on the second line with Hayes and Konechny, so I kind of have some interest there. Konechny's still really cheap. He's going to start to get his skates underneath him. So I don't mind that. I really like Philly tonight. Washington's just a tough team to figure out. They finally fixed up their top line again a couple games ago, so it's Ovechkin, Backstrom, Oshie. I really like that. I really like that stack. Ovechkin, he hasn't been scoring, but he's just putting the puck at 26 shots over the last 5 games. In his last 10 games, he's averaging 4 shots on goal a game. John Carlson, he's in play as well. I really like Jacob Vrana on that top power play line. He's got 4 goals, 2 assists in his last 5 games. That's. If you want to look at the third line for Philly, or the line of Lindblom, Giroux, and Voracek, they're going to be very low owned. Giroux and Voracek playing on the power play, and they each have 3 points over their last 5 games. Giroux's actually got 4. It's 3 goals and an assist. Voracek's got 3 assists. Combined, they have 30 shots on goal. They're going to be low owned, so I don't hate that at all. And like Philly's power play unit has just been great. Last 10 games, they got 5 goals from the top power play line. So I really like going back to them. Keep the questions coming, folks. All right, we got them. William. All right, it's a good question. 46 for defense on FanDuel. Last spot to fill. Do you prefer Heiskanen, Sergachev, Ghost, or Ekholm? That one's tough. I like Tampa Bay. Sergachev, I do like him, but with Nashville down 3D men, I think we kind of have to go at home here for cash. He's going to see a ton of minutes. He should see more block shots with Carolina's throwing the puck on net at all times. So I really like Ekholm. So it'd be Ekholm, Sergachev, Gostisbehere, and Heiskanen in that order for me. But we'll move on here to the next game, which we kind of just mentioned something about it. But I'll go a little bit more in depth for you. And that would be the Nashville Predators at Carolina Hurricanes. Predators implied 2.4, Carolina 3.7. Carolina, one of the highest projected goals on the slate, and I absolutely love them. They are without Vincent Trocheck, which really hurts their second line. They're also without Teuvo Teravainen. So they changed up their top two lines a little bit. So from morning skate, Carolina 1 is Aho, Nino Niederreiter, and Martin Nikas. And the second line is Andrei Svechnikov, Jordan Stahl, and Jesper Fast. It's tough that they changed around, but that gives Stahl a big bump. He should see a few more minutes here playing on the second line. So that Stahl line of him, Svechnikov, and Fast, they have been playing together, but we see Niederreiter and Nikas move up to the top line with McGinn and Fogle dropping down to the third. So I do like that Carolina 1 of Aho, Niederreiter, Nikas, and my boy Dougie Hamilton. And Cash just play Dougie. There's really no reason not to. Pecorino is not good, and he should get the start here. Nashville's also without three of their top defensemen. With Roman Josi is out. Dante Fabro's out. He got suspended. And we know Ryan Ellis is out. And actually the play that Cam gave me is Jeremy Davies. Who knows? He might not do anything. But he's mid-price on DraftKings, getting power play one time. So I don't hate going there if you need the salary. I'll stick to the Carolina side. Top two lines definitely in play. Jacob Slavin, 20 shots and blocks over his last 5 games with 3 assists. I like him for value. You can look at Brett Pesce. He's been great as well. So we can run him in cash if you want. But yeah, I just love Carolina. I'm all over Carolina. I love Aho tonight. He's too cheap, especially on DraftKings. He's way too cheap. And they play great defense and they're scoring at will. James Reimer, you can play him in cash. You can play him in GPPs. I don't mind it. But if we're looking over at the Nashville side, I do have a lot of interest in Philip Forsberg. He is doing everything for them right now. He's got 7 assists over the last 5 games, 22 shots. Matthias Ekholm, he's going to get a few more minutes too with all the defensemen that are out. He's been really good of late. Let's see. Don't mind Victor Arvidsson. Don't love him, but he's in play. And Eli Tolvainen got moved down to the third line, but he's still cheap and he still plays on the top power play unit. So we can kind of take a stab at him there. Heiskanen has been good. I'm just really not like in cash. I prefer like Ekholm because he's going to get more minutes. He's going to see a lot of shots against him, which kind of just raises his block shot floor. And he can score too. Like he scored against Carolina before. I think he had 2 goals last time they faced off. So Heiskanen definitely still in play. I like the other 3 a little bit better. But yeah, like I said, Nashville's implied kind of on the lower end of the slate. Carolina's defense is just really, really good. Carolina all the way. Couple one-offs from Nashville I don't mind. Forsberg, Ekholm, and Cash is a good option. Davies for DraftKings at min-price. I don't hate that either. And this power play 1 unit, though. Stahl, Aho, Hamilton, Svechnikov. I like them. And whoever fills in for Trocheck. We'll go here on to the next game, though, which is the Florida Panthers at the Columbus Blue Jackets. Florida is implied 2.9, Columbus 2.7. I like a few guys from this game. I like Bobrovsky for tournaments just because Columbus just isn't really scoring lately. Just 2.1 goals over their last 10 games. They're just kind of like all in shambles. I really like Zach Werenski for cash or Seth Jones. They're both kind of decently priced, and they're both getting power play time, shooting, blocking. Seth Jones got 13 blocks in his last 5 games. Should see a bunch of shots from Florida too. I'm not too interested in their offense, but Bobrovsky can be kind of leaky. We know Patrick Laine can fire the puck at the net. Just hasn't really done a whole lot of it. Oliver Bjorkstrand, he's still too cheap. So you can throw some of him in there. Boone Jenner's been good. Cam Atkinson had 7 shots last game, so he's also in play. I wouldn't really play any of Columbus in cash though, except for like a Werenski or a Jones at defense. On this Florida side, Korpisalo hasn't been good. I think he's starting. Let me just look here. Left wing lock. Actually, no, we have Elvis Merzlikins is starting. He's been okay. Coming back off an injury, though. Could be a little bit rusty. Florida should throw the puck on the net. I mean, Florida's shooting 37 times over their last 10 games. My favorite play, and this is just because he's 3,100 on FanDuel, 3,100 on DraftKings, Mason Marchment. Getting top line time, playing on the second power play. Whenever you're playing on a line with Alexander Barkov, the chances of you scoring a goal off of him are pretty high. He's great with the stick and passing to his wingers. So I really like him. He's too cheap. Even if he only gets one shot, it's whatever. He's basically mid-price on FanDuel and almost mid-price on DraftKings. I like their line of Huberdeau, Hornquist, and Wenberg. I like a mini stack, though, of Huberdeau and Hornquist a little bit better. Wenberg just doesn't really do anything when he's on the ice with them. But those two guys also work on the top power play with Barkov, Ekblad, and Keith Yandel. So you could run there. Frank Vatrano's he's moved down to the third line, second power play. Not really that interested in him. He's kind of cooled off a little bit lately. That's about it with that game. I mean, Florida, I really like Florida. Their top line's great. Verhaeghe's been really good this season. And then Barkov, like I said, he's been great as well. Marchment hasn't played many games. He's already got 2 goals, so he might not score, but if he gets a couple shots, maybe a block, he's definitely going to hit value at just 3,000. But it's about it for that game. It's a lot more difficult when you're by yourself. Throw those questions, guys. Come on. Give me interacting with you, answering some questions. Next up, we got the Winnipeg Jets at the Toronto Maple Leafs. Winnipeg is implied 2.6, Toronto 3.5. I don't think we have any injury news on this game. We do not. But Austin Matthews, and Austin Matthews. Cash lock, especially on a slate like this. His floor is just better than everyone else. He's seen a price jump. He scored a goal last game, so I don't think his risk is that bad, even though they say it's not 100%. But just play him in cash. I like Mitchell Marner. Joe Thornton, I'm not playing him. He doesn't play on the power play. He's kind of just there now. He hasn't really had many assists in his last 5 games, kind of on a downward trend. Willie Nylander, still a little too expensive for me, but if you want to go for it, then you can. Morgan Riley, he's in play, playing on the top power play line. I like a stack of Matthews, Marner, Riley in tournaments. If you want to throw Tavares in there to get that power play 1 exposure, then you can. Yeah, that's about it. I just play Austin Matthews in cash. Not too interested in either one of these goalies. Both these teams can score in bunches. But if you want to take a chance on Frederik Andersen, you can. Winnipeg has been struggling a little bit lately. They have those games where they don't score too much. But on the Winnipeg side, in GPPs only, I'm not touching them outside of GPPs, except maybe a Derek Forbort. He's blocking a ton of shots. I really like him on DraftKings because he's so cheap. And with that DraftKings block bonus, that really helps out. But if you want to play like a Kyle Connor Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, kind of power play one stack. I don't hate that at all. Connor's been shooting a ton. Scheifele's been getting the assists. Wheeler's been actually shooting a little bit more recently than he's used to. Andrew Kopp probably will get a ton of love on the domination station, but he's not really doing much. He's only got 5 shots in his last 5 games. It's not something I really want to target. Yeah, Austin Matthews in this game, just kind of play him. He's with the value that we have, we can pay up for 2 or 3 centers. And I'll tell you, my cash lineup has 3 centers that are above 7,000. And I made it work, and I made a lineup that I really like. I'll kind of go over with you my cash core. I'll go over tiers with you really quick. I'll share my screen so you guys can kind of see. I'll give you my opinions on the tier slate. But Tattooed Freak says, is there a must-have team or line to have exposure to in a smaller single entry? Tonight, yeah, I really like Carolina. I really like Tampa Bay. I really like Austin Matthews in Toronto. So those would probably be like 3 of my top teams. But like Pittsburgh, I love Pittsburgh too. If you look at my GPP core lines on my FanDuel sheet, I have Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, Carolina, Toronto, and the Islanders. Love all of them. So you kind of pick one of those and then throw in a couple mini stacks of 2 guys from another team that's in the write-up or another team that is in the core lines. And for sure, you can build a good lineup around that. And like Tristan Jarry is one of my favorite tournament plays tonight, so you can definitely roll him out there as well. And he saves you some money. But we will get to the next game here, which is the Tampa Bay Lightning at the Detroit Red Wings. Tampa Bay implied 3.7, Detroit 1.9. Obviously, everyone's going to be on Tampa Bay here with that high projection. Detroit's not good. Andre Vasilevsky firmly in play for cash if you can afford him. So him, I'll go over my cash goals at the end here before I go over the tiers just to bring everything back together. The one thing I do worry about is the minus 300 odd curse. Seems like when Vegas gives someone a minus 300, that team usually fails. Another thing I worry about is Detroit's not shooting a ton. They do have Dylan Larkin back, which helps. Their pucks on the net, but Tampa Bay doesn't allow a ton of shots. Detroit doesn't really shoot a ton of shots. So I'm not really looking at anybody on the Detroit side. For Tampa Bay, FanDuel did a good job of pricing them up. So it's really hard for me to get a bunch of these guys in my cash lineup just with other guys that I like and the value that we have. But Palat, Point, Cirelli, Tampa Bay 1, they're in play. For stacks, Tampa Bay 2, Killorn, Gordon, Stamkos. I really like in cash for FanDuel. You can play a Yanni Gordon, you can play Alex Killorn. They're really cheap still, under 5K. You can look at Mikhail Sergachev. He's 4,500. He's not bad. Ryan McDonough's cheap, and he's blocking a ton of shots as well. But for sure, like you want some exposure to Tampa Bay. They should score a ton. Bernier's been a little bit better in net than Thomas Greiss, so take that with a grain of salt. Take that however you want. Tampa Bay is still going to be one of the higher-owned offenses on the slate. In 2 more games we have here. The Chicago Blackhawks at the Dallas Stars. Chicago is implied 2.5 with Dallas 3.1. This is a tough game because Khudobin's been great. Chicago's offense is great, but the Dallas Stars play really good defense. I like both of these goalies in GPPs. I do give the slight edge to Khudobin just because I think Dallas is a better all-around team. Chicago, you can stack up their top line, DeBrincat, Suter, and Kane. Obviously, Kane's a stud. Other than that, with them, like you don't really have a ton of good value, kind of just fillers. I'm not really trying to target Dallas in cash, but Dallas, I really do like Dallas. I like Khudobin, like I said. I like their top line, Jamie Benn, Joe Pavelski, Denis Gurianov. They've all been really good. They're Gurrianov is really cheap still, so I really like him playing on the second power play unit, playing with the top line. Lankin has been good this year overall, but he's kind of struggled a little bit lately. And in the last 10 games, the Hawks are allowing 3.5 goals a game. So I think Dallas can score, even though they haven't really been scoring a ton lately. But you can also go to the Dallas 2 route with Robertson, Kurvianta, but we'll have to keep an eye on Rupe Hintz. He's still a game-time decision. We probably won't know before lock. They'll probably give it to pregame skate before we get word on that. But I do like Robertson. He's still cheap. He's got 2 goals, 5 assists over his last 5 games. Kurvianta's been up and down all season, but when he's healthy, he's a really good hockey player. Joe Pavelski's just been a stud. 18 shots, 3 goals. Definitely love that play. Before I get into the last game, I know I'm going kind of quick through it, but we got a couple questions that I want to address. Tattooed Freak says, speaking of cash, I've stayed away from cash in NHL. Do you think NHL cash can be, as I guess I'd say, as predictive or easy to navigate as NFL? It is not easy. Cash, the thing is, play head-to-heads in cash because you're going to get those donkey lineups where people just like stack up anything and everything, and they basically play a tournament lineup in cash, which I don't recommend doing. I usually try to limit my cash, especially on a bigger slate like this, to playing 2 guys from the same team in cash, maybe 3. But once you get kind of three or more, it's a little riskier, especially if they don't do anything and then you kind of bank it all on one team. NHL is so volatile, so it's really hard to be like, oh, this guy's gonna score this many points, because you don't know. Like, everyone's floor is 0, even the top guys in the league. The chances of them getting a 0 aren't really that high. Like in Austin Matthews, like he's probably not going to score 0, but is he going to pay off his salary? Normally, the top guys are high owned, so if they don't do that much, it's not going to hurt you, but it also won't really help you that much. But I will say that you want to look for guys that are playing good minutes. You want to look for guys who are shooting. You want to look for guys that are in good matchups. If they're playing high minutes, they're shooting the puck. The chances of them scoring go up, obviously. If they're just playing a ton of minutes and they're never shooting, maybe kind of see who they're playing against. If they're playing against a team that gives up a ton of goals, or if they're playing just against a bad goalie or a bad defensive team that allows a ton of shots. So definitely I would say, if you want to get a safe goalie who has a good chance at the win but is going to see a bunch of shots, so if he does give up 1 or 2 goals, it won't hurt you that much. And like, we know who the chalk is going to be most nights. Like tonight, Austin Matthews is going to be chalk. You play him in cash. You play him in single entries. I would say you still go a little bit overweight on him in tournaments on a slate like this. There's not a whole lot to pay up for at center. There are some guys who are like in the 7K range that aren't awful, who are really good plays, who are good for cash. But like Austin Matthews is going to be in my cash lineup, no question about it. Keep those questions coming. I only got one more game to go over here, and then I'll go over tiers with you guys. But we also have William says, building a GPP line, Toronto 1. What are your feelings about Big Joe? Do you include him with Matthews, Marner, and Riley, or plug in Anderson for the win? I don't really like Joe Thornton. I don't even know what his price is because he didn't even hit my radar. But on let's see what his price is on FanDuel. 4,500. I mean, no. If he doesn't get an assist, he's really not doing anything for you. It's too expensive. You don't need to go there. I like Matthews, Marner, Riley, and Anderson. It's a nice little stack, especially if you think Toronto's going to kind of run away with this one. So I definitely like Matthews. Just play Matthews. Marner's a good stack with him. He's a little cheaper. Hasn't been doing all that much of late, but he still has the upside. He always gets overlooked. He's probably going to be lower owned. Last game of the night, Montreal Canadiens at the Calgary Flames. Montreal, they're both projected 2.8, so Vegas thinks it's going to be a really close game. I really, really like Jacob Markstrom for Calgary in tournaments. Montreal's playing a back-to-back. They got finished the game late last night. They had to travel, and they're playing their third and fourth night, so I think they could be a little bit tired. And Calgary's rested and should be good to go in this game. So I have a lot of interest in Markstrom. We saw Demko get like 40 shots on goal against him last night. Montreal's still going to shoot a ton, but they could be a little bit tired here. If you want in tournaments and you want a piece of the late game, I still don't mind if you want to go the power play unit for the Canadians, Suzuki, Anderson, Toffoli, Jeff Petrie. I love Jeff Petrie. If you can afford him in cash, go ahead and play him in cash. He's been great over his last 5 games with 4 goals, 2 assists, and 14 shots, and 7 blocks in there. It's a good floor. He's just a little bit pricey. Shea Weber's a little bit cheaper. Brandon Gallagher, you can include him with your Toffoli. Joel Armia is so cheap on DraftKings especially, and he's got 17 shots over his last 5 games, so I like him for a really good value piece. Calgary side, they're just not really doing that much. They're kind of a GPP stack or stay away from me. If you are stacking them, I like going to their power play 1 with Matthew Tkachuk, Elias Lindholm, Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Rasmus Anderson. You can throw in a Mark Giordano too, plays D1. But Montreal, their penalty kill hasn't been good in their last 10 games. It's just 72%. Calgary, they're just not doing all that great either. This game, I think, probably will be kind of low scoring. Both their goalies have shown that they can be really good. Likely Jake Allen starting for Montreal, and Markstrom, we know like how good he is and how good he can do. But that's it for games. Just a quick little, like my cash core tonight. I'll share it up with you guys. I'll give you a little treat when I'm by myself here. Let me just share my screen with you so you can see it. We'll go to my cheat sheets here. All right. So I'll show you guys my FanDuel cheat sheet really quick. Cash core, Austin Matthews, Brian Rust, Mason Marchment, Sidney Crosby, and Dougie Hamilton. If I had another spot here, I'd probably throw in Sebastian Aho. But if you can afford it, I really like him and Hamilton as a mini stack. Crosby and Rust, a little mini stack. Austin Matthews, he's just a stud. And Marchment, he's just too cheap, 3,100. For goalies, I would say Varlamov is my top option. Tristan Jarry is my second. Andre Vasilevsky, and then James Reimer. If you look at my player ranks, you'll see there's a couple more goalies that I like here, besides just the 5 that I mentioned right there. But like I said, I love Carolina here with Nashville down 3 D-men. The reason why, I usually don't put 5 core players, but I kind of want to show you guys where I'm going in cash tonight. Cash write-up's a little shorter than usual, but I want you guys to learn to be able to make your own lineups without us just giving you a bunch of options. Because then you're not really looking into much stats yourself. But if you look over at the player rank sheet, just look at it, take a quick look. We have 9 or 10 centers, we got 15 wingers, we got 10 defensemen, and we both got 10 goalies tonight. So there's plenty of options to choose from. Do your own research, check out the research station, go to the skaters tab, sort by value, sort by our projections. What I really like is the last 5 and last 10 column. You can kind of see who's running hot, who's going cold. If you are in Slack, you'll see that we DFS spreadsheets has been throwing in a hot and cold streak for the last 5 and 10 games for FanDuel and DraftKings. Take that how you will. You can ride the hot streak, which is really good to do in hockey, or you can think of a player like Edmonton. Basically, everyone at Edmonton last night's been running cold, and then they scored 7 goals last night. So you can play those cold guys who you think is going to turn it around. But if you look here, look at the GPP section. I'm obviously not going to read it for you. Take a look at it. Read it. Take it in. Research it with the research station to see why I'm on these guys. Because there's a lot more options in here than if you just looked at this GPP core line. Head on over to Flynn. He did the DraftKings sheet tonight. He's got Matthews, Crosby, Armia, and Marchment for his core. You got two studs, two cheap guys. Sidney Crosby, way too cheap on DraftKings. And I'll also say Sebastian Aho's under 7K on DraftKings. So I'd almost include him as a corks on DraftKings because of how cheap he is. He's got Vasilevsky, Varlamov, Bobrovsky, and Anderson for his cash goalies. I still would throw in Tristan Jarry on my end. I think he's a lot better than people think. But Vasilevsky and Varlamov are definitely the best options. They're going to be safe. They should both get the win. And he kind of threw in here each position above and under 5K, where you can kind of get an option of value guys that you want to play. He also gives his top offenses and kind of little quick little notes on Carolina that I mentioned a lot before. But if you guys don't have any questions, like throw in the questions. I'm going to finish by going over tiers and just kind of telling you guys who are my favorite options in each tier. It's a little tougher. If you guys look at the DK tiers and DK tier stacks on the research station, it really shows you what teams correlate, which teams don't correlate. So I'm going to just share that with you guys quick. I won't do this every slate, more so if I'm by myself, just to make it a little bit easier, and then I'm not just like talking to myself the whole time. Kind of show you guys what I'm looking at. But here we go. So I'll look at the stack chart first. We see like you can get the Bruins, you can get Pasta, Marchand, Bergeron, McAvoy. You can't really go wrong with Pasta, either one of his other line mates. And if you're using two of those guys here, throw in McAvoy for the full stack. I'm not really on either of the Blackhawks. Like they're both on the same tier. Not worth it. On Toronto, Matthews, Marner, Tavares. It's a great three-man stack. Tavares gets a power play one time with them. But even if you just want to do Matthews and Marner, I don't have any problem with that. Washington, they have Ovechkin, Carlson, Backstrom all on different lines. I really like that, especially if you think they're going to score. They all play on the top line, top power play. Penguins, one of my favorite offenses. You stack up their top line. Gensel, Crosby, Rust, Letang, boom, there you go. Pittsburgh, one. They're going to score a ton. You can also do the same with the Flyers, JVR, Couturier, Farabi. Predators just have Forsberg. I would prefer going Gensel or Barkov here. Forsberg's kind of in a thing with his own since he's not – you can't stack him with anyone. The Panthers, you can stack their first power play, Barkov, Hornquist, Huberdeau, and then Hornquist and Huberdeau get the line 2 power play 1 correlation altogether. The Jets, you can make a little stack here with Ehlers, Connor. If you want, you can go just Connor and Wheeler or Scheifele and Wheeler. Scheifele, if you're playing Ehlers, you want to play Connor. If you're playing Scheifele, you play Wheeler. If you're not going to play Ehlers. The Islanders, kind of crappy who they have here, Lee and Barzell. You can stack them in tournaments. Tampa Bay, you can't really stack much. If you play Stamkos, I would say you want to play Point. You can get Point there, or you can get Hedman. Those would be my preferred options to stack with Stamkos. Canadians, if you're playing Toffoli, you're definitely playing Gallagher with him, and then I prefer Petrie. The Flames, you can stack up their first line and their D-man. Hurricanes, Trocheck's obviously out, so I love Dougie Hamilton and pair him with Aho. And these last three are kind of useless. I wouldn't play. They don't stack, so they're not really in play for tournaments. So kind of just whoever you stack with the first ones, if they correlate with the last three, you can go ahead and do that. I'll kind of go here. Tier 1, it's going to be Matthews, Pasta, Kane, DeBrincat for me. Tier 2 is going to be Ovechkin for cash. Like his floor is just way too good. He's going to shoot a bunch. And then if you're playing Matthews, you can go Marner. If you're playing Pasternak, I would prefer Bergeron, but you can also go Marchand as well. But it would be Ovechkin, Marner, Bergeron, Marchand for cash. Tier 3, Forsberg, I love his floor, but given the matchup, I don't love the matchup there. I'd probably go Barkov here or Jake Gensel. Actually, probably Gensel, Barkov, JVR, Forsberg, Ehlers. Tier 4, Sid the Kid. Block and load, Sid the Kid, that tier. But I don't mind any of these guys, really. Kachuk, Stamkos, probably my lower guys. Philly, if you're playing Van Riemsdyk in 3, you're going to play Couturier in tier 4. Tier 5, load up on Brian Rust and Dougie Hamilton, kind of whoever you're stacking. Like stacking Pittsburgh, you play Rust. If you're stacking Carolina in the later tiers, you're going to play Hamilton. And then same with the Winnipeg guys. Like I kind of mentioned a little bit before, check the stacks tab to see who they correlate with. Tier 6, Sebastian Aho, Chris Letang. Andre Palat's been playing really good, so I really like him too. Palat would probably be maybe one of my cash guys. I'd get more exposure to him here, but like Aho's my guy. Tier 7, I would say Petrie's probably got one of the safer floors. Hornquist has got a good floor with his shots on goal as well. Malkin, if you're stacking up Pittsburgh. Petrie, I love Petrie. Shea Weber's been shooting a lot, just hasn't really been scoring. And finally, tier 8, I would say these all kind of depend on who you're stacking. But if you're stacking Boston, play McAvoy. If you want to have a little mini stack with Lee, then you're going to want to play Barzell. I think Lee in tier 4. Then you want to play Barzell. Backstrom, if you're playing Ovi. Atkinson, he'd be a one-off. Gallagher, if you're playing Toffoli. Huberdeau, if you're playing Barkov. Lindholm, if you're playing Kachuk. But if nobody has any questions, Scott, hold on. Let me go get him. I'll go get my dog. You can see my dog. Give me 2 seconds. No, it's okay. Sorry, Scott. The dog does not want to come with me. And I got a bum shoulder, so I can't pick him up. Let's see. Sorry, Scott. But he did tell me that he loves Austin Matthews. Told me that this morning. One question here. What's the difference in lineup strategy between cash and GPP and tiers? Cash has been really hard in tiers this year. So I would say you want to look for guys who have top shots on goal, good matchups. For GPP, you want to stack up as many options as you can. Scott, here's the doggy. That's for you. He loves Carolina tonight, too, so the dog said it. Ryder loves Carolina. With that being said, I'm going to wrap it up here. If you have any questions, hit me up in Slack at mdelagnus14. Just hit me with that tag so I can get to the questions. Got about an hour to build your lineup, so you got plenty of time. And good luck tonight, fellas.